This is where I want to see the uprising. This is where I want to see people pissed off. When people talk about, rich men north of rich, that's great. But hey, let's be clear about this. All of these people are screwing you. Let's go to the UAW and American car manufacturers.
Nice transition. Segue.
So they're still striking, right? The UAW, for those of you who don't know, it's the United Auto Workers Union. Now, I want to be clear about something. Let's frame this. When they're striking, they're not just striking against their employers, right? This isn't just a private employer-employee tussle. They're striking against you. You're the reason that GM, that Ford, that I guess it's, is it Stellantis is what it's called?
Stellantis
Jeep,
now.
Chrysler,
Yeah.
so they've kind of merged. You're the reason that the big three, I'm going to use that term because that's how you know them. You're the reason that they're still in business. You're the reason American Airlines, Delta, is still in business so that they can rape you when they charge you for your bags, for your carry-ons, right? They increase the costs for every service that used to be standard.
Yeah.
Hey, you funded their business. You bailed them out. Did you get any profits? What about for the Pfizer, the Moderna vaccine? I don't care if you're big business or small business, just to be clear, just be good business. And the businesses that people hate, the industries people hate the most, let's go. Okay, obviously American auto manufacturers are one of them. You can barely get a good American car these days. Yeah. Banks, airlines, health insurance companies, the energy sector. Name me any industries that are more regulated or receive more bailouts than those. Comment below. Name me one. Maybe medical research, but I'd file it under
healthcare. You said, yeah.
So before we get into this, right, Marley was dead to begin with. The big three, they received an $80 billion taxpayer-funded bailout less than 15 years ago, right? That was in 2008.
That was just GM and Chrysler. Ford
Right.
Came in later, but the 80
Ford came in later.
Just GM and Chrysler.
Now, keep in mind, because the unions will say, well, this was important, it was necessary, right, to help the workers. Well, the CEOs, by the way, Ford CEO got $17.9 million. The GM CEO got $14.9 million. Here's my rule. By the way, a CEO is not the same as an owner of a company. You're a glorified manager sometimes. Not everyone. Obviously, you're a little bit different. But some of these CEOs of these big companies, right, they're interchangeable. They come in, and they go, okay, bailout. If you receive $80 billion in taxpayer, guess what? You get no bonus. You get none whatsoever. That's the rule. It should be contingent upon that. You don't get a bailout and then from the taxpayers and then use it to pay yourselves more.
That's crazy. We just paid you $15 million.
Right, yeah.
And I got to pay whatever it is for a car.
And then Chrysler, of course, was bailed out in the 70s as well. This has been an ongoing basis. Again, there are all kinds of government subsidies, billions of dollars. So, for example, there have only been 2 major bailouts. But what happens is the government either subsidizes or provides a tax break when they try and manipulate winners and losers in the auto sector by saying, oh, if you have X amount of cars, each car that achieves 30 miles an hour, or whatever the arbitrary EPA standard is, will give you X number of dollars in a tax credit or subsidy. So this stuff this stuff happens all the time, to be clear. When they're protesting, they are shaking you down. They are shaking you, the taxpayer, down. When they're living it up on Wall Street, you've heard that song, they're shutting Detroit down. Shut them all down. Don't identity politic this on the right. Oh, boy, I'm country. Shut it all down. No bailouts. How about that? None for anybody. Okay. So now the UAW. 5th day. Labor unions, car companies, they've failed to reach an agreement. Oh, I wonder how that ends.
Turning now to the auto workers' strike and its huge potential impact on America's economy. The union says the walkout could expand this week as negotiations continue today with the country's 3 biggest automakers.
And it's affecting them in three really big factors. I guess GM, their pickups are in Missouri. Ford, they have SUVs in Michigan. Stellantis has Jeeps in Ohio.
Well, they're striking at those 3 plants strategically, and they're negotiating with all 3 and striking against all 3 at one time. This is a little bit unique. This doesn't happen this way typically, right? So this is a different strategy than they've employed in the past. So that's why it's such a big deal, because it will just trickle down from there.
Well, the UAW has their hands on all of the automakers.
They do, but they're striking against all 3. Typically, they pick a fight with one, right? Now they're going and trying to negotiate with all 3 at one time and striking against all 3 at specific plants.
Well, maybe it'll improve. What's that one good GM car?
Is there one?
I don't know.
I mean, I like GMC.
Hold on, I got it.
No.
No. That's not it.
That's not it.
The Chevy Volt.
I know.
You see that? You know you're getting raped. So here's what the workers are demanding from you.
Jeez.
And the reason I say this is because these companies, right, what they're demanding, this is going to put the companies in the red, and then you'll bail them out. Just to be clear.
Again.
They want a 46% pay increase.
Wow.
They want a 32-hour work week, but to be paid for 40.
Don't we all? Yeah. Don't we all?
They want to return to their previous pension structure, back when people worked 50 hours a week and usually lost the skin on their top knuckles. They want that pension structure, and they want to give it to all workers. They want health care for retirees. And even the robots are on strike. That's what's happening here with GM. And yeah, I mean.
Oh, geez. Johnny 5. You're better than that.
So here's the thing. Let's go through some fast facts here, and you need to understand that this is where this ends up. If they get these things, of course, you will be bailing them out. Hey, anyone received your check from Pfizer and Moderna?
No, not yet.
Not even Johnson Johnson?
I got a bill.
You receive your check from the 2008 auto bailout?
I think we're in the red on that one.
Okay, just to be clear. Oh, right, I understand it. Okay, so here's key fact number 1. Okay, so the demands that they're making, of course, are going to be catastrophic for the consumer.
Yep.
Just to be clear. And I get it. You're saying, okay, factory, working class, and this is the problem with some of the populism out there. The unions are very different. The unions in the Midwest, they're basically glorified mobsters. Right. Now, think about this, too. People say, oh, the American dream is dead. My parents used to be able... Well, hold on a second. Your parents didn't work... Your grandfather didn't come back from World War II and work a 32-hour work week.
Yeah, no.
And be unionized and play cards because they couldn't do anything. I'm not kidding. One of my buddy's dads was union worker at a Ford plant in Ohio and said, I'm going to show up late to work. I go, aren't they going to fire you? No, I'm union. They can't do anything. I'm just going to go to the break room and play cards all day anyway.
Right.
Not kidding.
They play
100%.
I don't need this working class hero crap. Because then they try and you couldn't last a day in my union. I bet I could do a few years.
That's a feisty game of spades.
I bet I could do a few years.
But I could.
You can nap through a few,
exactly.
few years.
So the strike itself will immediately lead to price increases. According to just one New Jersey Ford dealership, they said if the strike continues for just 2 weeks, prices are going to be hiked up 20%. Now, this happens, of course, you'll have some panic buying. You'll have, of course, supply issues. The average monthly car payment, by the way, is already $733. That's up 8% since just last year.
That's insane. $733.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So again, what you can't have is supporting this working class hero at the cost of people who can't or who aren't afforded the luxury of working 32-hour work weeks in a union and never-ending taxpayer bailouts. And I'll compare them, by the way, to other workers and factories here in the United States.
Let me just make this quick point, right? So they targeted these plants because eventually the other plants end up working or not having enough parts, or they have too many parts to send to these plants for finishing. Anyway, it starts gumming up the entire works, right? So now they're going to raise prices. Now there's not going to be enough new cars. Do you know what that's going to do to the used car market? So UAW is basically striking. New cars will dry up. The prices will skyrocket, which means the prices of used cars, the only cars that are going to be available by that point, are going to skyrocket as well. We just went through this.
Yeah.
This means that the average, everyday working, single parent, somebody struggling to get by, whose car breaks down, they need a car to get to work, can't.
Yeah.
Because of your strike for 32-hour work weeks with 40-hour pay and 46% pay increase.
I thought of another industry. Education.
There you go.
Hey, there you go. You nary a Pell Grant to be found. And now, of course, you talk about the skyrocketing costs. The American dream is going to say, man, I can't afford a house. Well, that's been bailed out, of course, the housing market, big banks. I can't afford a car. Well, what happens when there's a never-ending supply of taxpayer bailouts? Do you think that Ford, GM, do you think they restructure? And they say, okay, we have to find a way to trim costs and make it more affordable? No. Absolutely not. What do you think happens when
again?
Yeah, what do you think happens with schools when they just say, well, we're just going to charge it? Well, I can't afford that. Don't worry, the government will make it up. Hey, now you have that hyperinflation. Now, remember, by the way, adding to the cost of these cars, the big threes, for example, is these unbelievable healthcare plans, Cadillac healthcare plans, if I may. By the way, isn't it funny that the Cadillac, they used to say that's the Cadillac isn't even the Cadillac of cars.
Yeah, I don't want your Cadillac version of anything.
Yeah, I don't refer to this is the Cadillac of mugs. I'd be like, so you're saying it's mediocre and unreliable?
Breaks down.
People do that with military grade. They go, oh, that's military grade. I'm like,
Mil spec, bro.
Work?
Yeah, exactly.
The bare minimum.
So the cost, by the way, for the health care of these workers is 150% more than the average across the United States. And comment below if your car payment is crushing your monthly budget. And by the way, for the first time, it's happening if you have a used car, your monthly payment. Now, here's a key fact that you also need to know. Fact number 2 here. We can hit that stinger. If the union gets its way, right, the big three, they will lose. They will lose competitively to foreign rivals, and they deserve to anyway. And this comparison is more important because you might be saying, yeah, well, hold on, the worker is getting screwed. Well, no. It's just GM and Ford. You have to understand how much money is being pocketed by the unions. They don't represent their workers. They're hand in hand with the CEOs. So if we add up the costs, and I did this back in, I believe, 2010 with a film called Detroit in Ruins, where I went down to the actual old Packard plant in Detroit. GM and Ford, the total labor costs per hour will go up to $150 per hour.
Wow.
Up from $64 an hour.
Over double.
Yes, much more than double.
With all of the stuff that they're including, from 64 to 150. Now, compare that to these other guys.
Right.
This is a stark comparison.
Now, nowhere else in any business, again, does someone go to their boss and say, so look, I know that I'm doing a bad job. I know that what we're doing here is, not even in the realm of being competitive. That's not lost on me, but let me, if I may, just float an idea. Triple pay?
Oh, no.
Why didn't you ask sooner?
Yeah.
I've been waiting.
They go, now, hold on, wait a second. Oh, you thought I was asking you? No. The 300 million people behind you, the taxpayers. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, take their money. How do you think they're so bold in asking for this? Because it is not subject to market forces. $64, $250. Now let's compare that to, by the way, Toyota, Hyundai, American workers, non-union, but some of these cars are more American than American cars.
Yeah.
I think the most American car is probably a Tesla. I think they did the math. It was something like the Toyota. Someone can fact check me. The Toyota Tacoma or something like that was the most American car as far as not only assembly but the parts used. So Toyota, Hyundai, the total labor cost per hour, $55 an hour.
Wow.
$55 an hour. And by the way, those people make very good livings. They're just far more efficient. They don't get the same bailouts that the big three do. Tesla, total labor cost per hour, about $45. And what's going to happen here, by the way, this is going to help give Chinese electric vehicles the ability to break into the United States market if you're paying attention. Which brings us to fact number 3. If anyone is to blame here, well, first off, okay, the UAW, yes, and the auto manufacturers and our stupid government who just keeps bailing out failed business models. Yeah, okay, we get all that. But certainly the man who has been suckling at the government teat for, I believe it's 72 years.
That's chafing.
You have former Vice President Biden. Here he is, someone who's never earned in the private sector in his life, saying that the people at the big three, they need to pay more. Why? Because nothingness.
Auto companies have seen record profits. But those record profits have not been shared fairly, in my view, with those workers.
Oh, wait, hold on a second. How about sharing it with the people who bailed them out? How do you go from, hey, we're bankrupt, $80 billion bailout, and that's before hyperinflation. I bet you that's like $5 trillion today, even though we're just going back to 2008. $80 billion bailout, then record profits, and none of us see a dime? Oh, it's only about well, why is it about the unions? Oh, that's because 97% of their funding goes to Democrats, right? They donate to Democrats. Also, this allows Biden a little bit more control. I hate to say follow the money, but he's demanding that by 2030, 60% of all cars on the road are electric vehicles. Never mind the fact that we don't have the infrastructure and a lot of our electricity doesn't come from quote unquote renewables. It's just something that he needs to do because he needs to grease some palms before the next election. And according to a statement from Stellantis, that's again Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep. That's the new parent company. The company needs to cut workers' pensions and health care costs to meet federal government's requirements that 60% of all new passenger vehicles be sold. That be sold. That's the Chrysler 200 or 300.
300, yeah, it's like a poor man's Bentley.
That be sold. You don't think EVs be like they is, but they do. 60%. So they're going to have to cut pensions because 60% of all new passenger vehicles sold in the country have to be electric by 2030. They've said that. So what do you have? You have a government that says, hey, you have to do this. Why? Because John Kerry, Al Gore, global warming. You have to do this by 2030. The company says, well, I can't afford that. They say, well, don't worry. We'll force the taxpayer to bail you out. Mm-hmm. And then you'll be able to do what we want, even though most American consumers don't want those vehicles. That's where we are. Biden, of course, voted for the 2008 bailout. He bragged about it, saying part of that was bailing out the automobile industry, talking about, I believe, TARP and the overall bailout packages, saving thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of jobs over time. I've never understood this.
I know.
Why is it virtuous to save a job here by robbing someone else, especially when that job is 2-3 times the hourly labor cost of the person who's bailing them out? Can someone explain it to me why for some reason that's seen as generous and not thievery?
I don't know, but I really hope so. President Donald Trump has a really good opportunity to go up and actually speak some truth to the UAW. He's doing a primetime address, I believe, to the UAW on next Wednesday when we're doing the live stream for the debate.
Yeah.
Right? So he has an opportunity to go up there and not pander. He did a great job representing the values of those guys last time around. Well, in 2016, he did a great job. He did a great job in 2020 also getting some of those votes if they weren't stolen. Sorry, that's on YouTube, so we probably have to. No, we can say that. We can challenge that now on YouTube.
Yeah,
that's okay. It's now okay.
YouTube dump button.
He has an opportunity to go up and do that, but I don't know what to expect.
Yeah,
We'll see.
Maybe he's the guy, though. Maybe he's the guy you want talking to these people. How many salaries has this guy negotiated? How many deals has this guy
That's true, but I hope he goes up and does that.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like that's the guy. Like you said, Biden's never been in the private sector.
Yeah.
He never negotiated a deal like that. I mean with Ukraine, but he's never.
that's just more of a giveaway.
Well, in
I
Iran,
think,
he just gives them
he's the guy
cash.
to
That's like
come in.
being in that glass
And he might pander a little bit.
tube with a money fan.
He might pander a little bit, but I think any pandering he does is in an effort to make a good deal.
I hope.
In his mind.
I hope that is the case. We'll see.
Yeah, I just hope he goes out and is like, look, you want $150 an hour. That's not going to happen. All right. One time, I Uber blacked in a Chevy Volt. The suspension was difficult. It was like being raped. It was like being raped in a Chevy Volt.
What kind of seat were you in?
Chevy Volt. And by the way, here's something as well. I need to put a moratorium on, by the way. I say it too much.
To be clear.
The strike is not about the workers. It's about your bailout funds. But the union leadership, we talk about the equity and diversity right scores. We talk about all of these, the ESGs, all of these things, right? We often look over what happens right here in the United States with these long-standing unions. So let me read you from the UAW Constitution. The UAW's Constitution enshrines our union's long-standing values and agreed vision of a society that embraces and implements economic and social justice for all people. Hold on a second. You make cars.
They have a constitution?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do they have amendments?
Exactly.
Were they advised by McKinsey?
They don't have a bill of rights, but they have a bill of sale,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. Their amendments are just recalls.
Can we have an insurrection against them?
Yes, let's storm Detroit.
And what's their vision of society? Well, the UAW PAC, by the way, huge. You want to look at big money in politics, look at unions, okay? UAW, their PAC, over 97% to Democrats.
Jeez.
97% to
Wow,
Democrats.
$50 million?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So, and by the way, if you're in the union, you have to be in the union. You have no say in the matter, and they take your money and they give it to. You think that 97% of people in Michigan or Ohio are at these plants? You think 97% of them
all.
voted for Joe Biden? Of course not.
No.
So that's basically coercion. And the point that we're making here is when you look at this, just remember where this goes. It's the same thing as the vaccine. Sorry, the mRNA injection. Think about all of the industries that you despise the most: airlines, banks, healthcare, or really you can just consider any industry, any sector of the economy that has experienced hyperinflation. Air travel, banks, healthcare, health insurance, and of
Lending.
course, lending. Yep, and of course, well, that would fall under banks, but of course, also education. Right, that is true. Those costs have skyrocketed. Do you see a consistent through line here? All of them are beholden to the government teat. And the thing is, that only exists because they rob you. And so this is where we need to make sure we don't identity politic it on the right like they do on the left with just they do it by orientation, gender. Sometimes we try and say, well, look, working out there, working class. Well, if you run a business, you're also working class. If you went to school and you work with your mind, are you also not working class? Is the only group of people that classifies as working class the people on the factory lines of American auto manufacturers who want $150+ an hour in total cost for 32 hours a week, but paid like they work 40. That's your definition of American working class and the American dream? No, this is about buying votes. You don't need to get to Soros and Epstein Island. Those things are true. Hey, by the way, while we're talking about Russell Brand and his potential sexual misdeeds, I don't know if you know this, but there's a very small island.
Really? Where?
In the West Indies. It's not, but sounds good. It's called Sex Island. Some refer to it as Pedophile Island. Perhaps look over there for the sexual indiscretions. We still don't have that client list?
Yeah.
No.
Nothing.
So now we look at the vaccine as well. $18 billion, right, with warp speed. Taxpayer funding. Record profits now. Where's your check? Where's your check from GM? Where's your check from Ford? This is where I want to see the uprising. This is where I want to see people pissed off. When people talk about, rich men north of rich, that's great. But hey, let's be clear about this. All of these people are screwing you. Just because someone works with their hands on a factory line, if their job only exists because of your never-ending taxpayer dollars, guess what? They should be out of a job. And I don't care. Well, hold on a second. That means they get nothing. I can pay a little more in taxes. No. What's the number? 50%? If you're in California, it's 50%? No, you shouldn't have to pay any more in taxes to support a job that doesn't exist. That is not the purpose of the government, and certainly not for Biden, who doesn't know jack shit about anything that's ever taken place in the private sector to tell these businesses, you know what, I think you should pay more. Where are you getting that from? What's your frame of reference? Your only frame of reference is voting yes on taking everyone's money here to give it to those hacks. And it's a shakedown. It's a shakedown of Russell Brand, and it's a shakedown of the American taxpayer. It's a shakedown of you, the American worker who deserves to save, scrape, earn, have an opportunity to pursue the American dream. But no, we've decided that we are going to do away with equal opportunity to ensure equity. And the people ensuring equity who give $50 million, UAW, social, those are the people. And then that's reciprocated by people in government. That's the swamp, to be clear. People often say swamp, but they don't define it. Sure, it's politicians. Sure, it's unelected officials like Fauci. It's also the media. It's also the entertainment industry. And it's also unions who decide to rape you of your pocketbook in order to support losers. That doesn't mean everyone working on the factory line, but the UAW serves to protect losers, just like the teachers' unions serve to protect bad teachers who get put in rubber rooms if they're shitty at their job. How about unemployment? I really don't know. I kind of know what they're thinking, but I don't exactly know what the American auto workers are thinking. I'm not a psychic, but it's a good thing we have a psychic here in the office. We're not a union shop. It's the best we can do.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.